I don't know, a lot of these people that just seem to want us to go to war everywhere have no actual firsthand experience of what it looks like.
Man.
I couldn't believe how fast they shifted from the global war on terror to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Call me suspicious, but I remember thinking, like, they're just going to shut down all these contracts.
Do you think we should have been there in Afghanistan or Iraq?
I think we had. I think Iraq. No, I think there's so many. You look at Iraq now, and it's like, are we better off without Saddam? Like strategically, geopolitically. So you look at Saddam was basically a counterbalance to Iran, and we let them kind of go at it, right? Mm-hmm. And it was it would have kept Iran from gaining too much power, and now basically Iran controls Iraq. So how can that be seen as a success? Not to mention all the lives lost, and it was sold on completely untrue basis of WMDs. So I think that one's a clear no. And then Afghanistan, I mean, they did harbor Al Qaeda, and so I think that was justified. But I mean, pretty much the war was won by like 2003.
Yeah.
And then big army comes in, it gets turned into this giant forever war that I think was used to help people get promotions and to make a lot of money. And everyone just said they played their part. They said what they were supposed to say to the American people when it was clearly untrue to anyone who was there. And 20 years later, they pull out in shame, just this complete debacle. Still, makes me sick to think about. And then we immediately shift gears to, oh yeah, actually the Taliban wasn't so bad. It's these ISIS-K guys are the real threat.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but we've been fighting these guys for 20 years.
Yeah.
And
now we're sending them $80 million a week.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll still be sending that by the time this interview airs, but because it's, in the House now, now it's on to the Senate to shut that shit down. But
it's unbelievable.
Do you trust our government at all?
No.
Any aspect of it?
No. I think all they do, I think something happens organically or inorganically, and they just look at it. How can we spin this to further our own interests? So 9/11 happens, and then we go into Afghanistan, we go into Iraq. I mean, you look at like all the money that was made,
mm-hmm.
and it's just, I don't know. It's just hard to articulate the level of like rage that I have for these people that just lied to us for so long. I mean, we all have friends whose kids, grew up without a dad. And this was like 10 years into the war, 15 years in the war. Abbey Gate, 20 years later. It's like, why? Like, we all knew. Anyone who knew anything about that war knew that the strategy that they were employing was going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was obvious to the youngest private. And then the 4-star general goes and briefs Congress and says everything's great. The ANA and the ANP, Afghan National Army, National Police, they're getting up to speed. They're going to be ready to go. They basically had the same talking points for 20 years.
Yeah.
You get that. There's a lot of careerism because, they're dressing up like Patton and all these generals, but really they're acting more like empty suits, saying whatever it is that kind of the powers that be want them to say. And then they get that combat command tour, go on, get promoted, and then eventually end up at Raytheon or on the board of some defense contractor. So you just look at it and you realize that there were a lot of interest in that entire war that had nothing to do with what they were telling the public.
It's crazy how many sellouts this country produces. It's just everybody up there is a fucking sellout.
It's like that 4-star pension isn't good enough. You need more.
Greed, man.
Yeah,
American greed.
it's sad to see. Hopefully, there's.
I mean, even looking back, I mean, there's so many things that you can kind of piece together. Like you were talking about southern Afghanistan. We were talking about southern Afghanistan and the big push down in Lash and Marja. And I mean, Marja was supposed to be the second biggest offensive force since Fallujah. And I remember when Obama came out with those ROEs, it was for the Marine infantry, at least, was because I was at the agency down there when that was all happening. And I remember when those ROEs came out, they were saying that if you get shot at and they drop their weapon, you're not allowed to engage.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are you chopping our guys' legs out from under them? Like, you're not even giving
Why
them
even
an
send them
opportunity.
outside the wire?
That's what I'm saying. You know, second of all, like it makes it impossible for them to complete the mission, or you strip them of all confidence, because now they're all worried that their superior is going to send them to jail if they dime them out that a guy dropped I mean, what? What if he drops his weapon while you're shooting him? I mean, what?
Yeah. I remember, I think it was McChrystal who gave the speech. He's like, it's the bullet you don't fire that will win the war. And it was supposed to be some like, guru, like strategy, some like, some strategy to a level that us normal people could never understand. I'm like, if that's the case, again, why send anyone outside the wire?
Yeah.
Oh, but we're going to go do community engagement. It's like, okay, we're all dressed up like stormtroopers in a tribal society, and we're going to turn them into like a Jeffersonian democracy. Like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And, I think they kept trying to build it up like, oh, they have a plan. There's just stay the course. They have a plan. And eventually, I mean, maybe I'm a slow learner, but after like a decade and a half, you're like, there is no plan. Yep. This is the plan. It's just to keep the contracts going and then keep getting promoted.
It's sad, man. It's our standing in the world is just, I feel like it's completely shot. I think other countries just lie. They don't want to challenge because of the repercussions, because we are so powerful, and the rest of the world hates us. I mean, I hate fucking saying this shit, but
yeah, it's
I just
depressing
feel like
because
we're the
it's
bad guys.
Yeah, like what good was done from that? Like, I mean, the people we're fighting over there, again, like, I think the vast majority of them had no concept of 9/11. And like, a lot of them were like teenagers pulled from madrasas in Pakistan that were given, $5 and some opium and said, hey, go put on this suicide vest and walk into, go find someone in uniform and blow it up. It's like, I don't know. A lot of these people that just seem to want us to go to war everywhere have no actual firsthand experience of what it looks like.
Man. That shit makes me so fucking angry. It does.
Yeah, and then I couldn't believe how fast they shifted from the global war on terror to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I know, Putin invaded Ukraine, but I also remember when Putin invaded Crimea in 2014, and it was hardly a news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I call me suspicious, but I remember thinking like, they're just gonna shut down all these contracts. I remember thinking that like there's so much money being made in Afghanistan. Are they just gonna get shut down now? Like, is that gonna be? Are we shifting gears into some new economy? Something else gonna happen? And then it was like clockwork. Then the Ukraine thing hit. And then, of course, this time, unlike 2014, now it's the biggest thing on the news, and it's something that we need to spend hundreds of billions of dollars for. And then you're like, oh, yeah, not to be a cynic, but all those contracts are just keep on rolling.
Ukraine could have been a simple real estate purchase. Those people didn't want to be a part of that anyways.
Yeah.
Russia wanted it. That could have been a very simple real estate transaction.
Seems like that's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted it to drag out.
Yeah. I wonder how long it will drag out. No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.